So for the first time since the year 2000, Michigan gets the shutout victory over the Spartans. As we welcome in Anthony Bellino from the X's and Bros Show. You see him every morning right here on BCSN. Anthony, we've talked about it all weekend long. We expected Michigan to get the win, and boy, did they ever get the win.
You know, I have not seen the Spartans lose that bad, Mark. First and foremost, thank you for having me as always. I appreciate you. The Spartans haven't lost that bad since, like, I don't know, turn the clock back to 371 BC. Very reminiscent of Sparta's defeat to the Thebans at the Battle of, I think it's Leuctra. I don't know. Never even heard of it. I hadn't heard of the battle until I was doing some research earlier to see when the Spartan dynasty fell. It was a great 49-0 victory. I love the fact that Mike Sainer still was able to outscore Michigan State all by himself with another pick six, his second of the season. Complete and utter domination by the Maize and Blue, because, you know, look, Mark, and for me, I try not to be too slappy. You know this. I try not to be too homerish. You know this, but there's just been so much chatter from our dysfunctional relatives to the West that I've had it up to here. I don't mind when Buckeye fans say things to me, because I'll be the first to admit that's the class of the Big Ten. Their reign of terror over this conference for like 20 years. I don't know if we'll see that again. It was simply remarkable from Tressel. Okay, one little down year with Luke Fickell, then to Urban Meyer. They were the standard. They were the class. There was a time where I didn't think Michigan would ever beat them again, and I still am shaky that even the last 2 years it had even happened. But all that nonsense I kept hearing from Michigan State was driving me crazy, Mark. And I'm finally, it was very cathartic on Saturday night to watch the Maize and Blue march up and down that field, just outgaining the Spartans 477 to 182. It was a bludgeoning, and it was beautiful.
You got to like the performance by J.J. McCarthy, wins the Big Ten Co-Offensive Player of the Week. And all of a sudden, the Michigan quarterback is now the Heisman Trophy favorite. He says he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about trophies. He cares about rings on the finger, and that's why he came back and why he's looking to come back next year as well. But the performance by J.J. McCarthy, not only against Michigan State, but the entire season, has been the big difference maker between this Michigan team and the last couple of Michigan teams.
You know, and really, Mark, JJ has done a really good job this year. I go back to the Bowling Green game, right? There's something for our viewers in our area that they, a majority, I'm sure, watched that football game and how he looked in that game. And what we've seen is JJ McCarthy kind of start by start, week by week, continue to improve. And we had a lot of questions about whether or not he was going to learn from that Bowling Green game about trying to force the football. And he does still from time to time. When you talk about a performance this past week, 21 of 27 for 287 yards, 4 touchdowns, a QBR of 97.7. I mean, he has been simply sensational. And really, when you think back to it, probably the best pure quarterback that Michigan football has ever had in over 100 years of history. And I don't take that lightly. I mean, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. We all know that. 7 Super Bowls, that's fine. But what JJ has been able to do at Michigan specifically, I think that he is the best combination of pure passer and athlete that they have had. He understands the position. He elevates those around them. He makes the play of everybody around him that much better. And he's a great leader as well. So he encompasses all these traits of the modern day quarterback that we really haven't seen yet under Jim Harbaugh in this era of Michigan football. And, you know, just think back to it. Think about guys like Wilton Spate or Chad Henne or Denard Robinson, right? Great quarterbacks all in their own. John O'Korn, right? Shea Patterson, there's another name. Even Cade McNamara, what he meant to this program. But nobody's been able to do it as consistently and as effectively as J.J. McCarthy. And it's really evolved the Michigan offense to where, you know, we're used to them, handing the ball off 30 times a game, and they did so 34 times for 120 yards, but nothing crazy in the run game this past week against Michigan State. And that's because the pass game has just taken such a step. Receivers, anybody can get it at any moment. You know, I love the fact that he's willing to spread the ball out to everybody wearing a Maize and Blue jersey. It's a beautiful thing. He's playing very well. Heisman hopeful. Sure, it's fun for the conversation. Don't think it'll happen. I don't know if he's the best player in college football, but it's great to have your guy mentioned in that conversation, no doubt.
Michigan with the week off. I'm tempted to say it's not a good time for the week off because the momentum they've been playing with the last couple of weeks, and there's not a whole lot of injuries on this Michigan team either. They've been remarkably healthy to this point in the season. So I guess from a mental standpoint, this is a good time to reset before the final 4 games of the regular season.
You know, Mark, I know we're going to get to it here in a minute, so maybe a little foreshadowing here. but I don't necessarily love the bye week here where it's at with all the news surrounding the program. I'd much rather be playing this week, to be honest with you. I mean, what do they say? Idle time is the devil's playground or something along those lines. I feel like that's where the program is at right now. Luckily, they'll come back. It's a night game against Purdue when they finally do get back in action in 2 weeks. So that's good. They're not, going to open up with a juggernaut like a team like Penn State, Maryland, who's played pretty good this year, or even Ohio State. So I like the bye where it's at because it kind of broke the season down into two very different factions, having the first 8 games, then a bye, and then your final 4. I do kind of like that because if you're a team that's looking to make a postseason run, having the bye week at this point gives you a week off. When you start to look about, okay, it's not a 12-game season. It could be a 14 or 15-game season if you're lucky and you're playing well. So I do like it right here because it's about the midway point of the season. A little bit of an extra break, get a reset. Like you mentioned, everybody's, remote, basically healthy. So it doesn't really play much of a factor at that point. But I do think just before, when you start to kind of project how far this team believes they can go this season, this is kind of like the midway point, and that's a good thing.
Michigan likes to refer to this as improvement week, having the week off in the middle of the year. You kind of referenced it. There's been a lot of more distraction surrounding this program. They did a remarkable job of keeping tunnel focused against Michigan State, but earlier this week, more allegations about Connor Stallings, the suspended analyst, and he reportedly traveled to 11 different Big Ten stadiums over the last 3 years to theoretically scout opponents, which would be an NCAA violation. It seems like every day there are more and more rumors floating around, yet this program's still keeping their focus on winning a Big Ten championship and a national championship.
Well, you know what they say. I mean, look, we're out here, we're trying to scout, we're trying to make sure we got everything we need to get this thing rolling. You know what I mean? We got to be out there. We got to see the signs. The guy bought tickets on both sides of, look, I'm making a joke and I'm making light of it, but here's my stance. If it's against the rules and you're knowingly breaking the rules, you can't point to anybody else and say, well, this team's handing the bag to that player and that team's doing this. It doesn't matter. If you are going to, say and portray yourself as the leaders of the best and hold yourself to this imaginary standard, then that's the standard that you have to abide by. That's your bed. You have to lay in it. As this story progresses, as more information comes out, the more that does come out, the worse it looks for Michigan fans. And as I might make light of it in a joking manner with my scout binoculars here, at the end of the day, if you can't do it, you can't do it. If it's against the rules, it's against the rules. You should know better. I want to be able to read more and hear more and see more of what we actually find out of this, but it doesn't look good, and it's going to leave a bad taste. Some people are just, they don't care. It's just win. It's Al Davis. Just win, baby, and move on. You beat Ohio State. You beat Penn State. That's all that matters. But for other people, integrity does matter, and this is casting a kind of a shadow over top of this program that's kind of picking up where Cheeseburger Gate left off. And it's kind of like, okay, you served a 3-game suspension at the beginning of the year. Now we have this. Now we're starting to see a pattern. It might not be all sunshine and rainbows there in Ann Arbor.
On the field, Michigan's taking care of business. We'll find out in the very near future, or perhaps in the very far future, what all the allegations and ramifications are on this latest bit of news from the NCAA. Wolverines with the week off, but Anthony Bellino never takes the week off. Thank you for joining us with your insights on the Michigan program. Of course, you can catch Anthony every morning, the X's and Bros show on the radio and right here on BCSN. Anthony, thank you again.
Mark, my friend, as always, absolute pleasure.